Welcome to Bigfoot
and the Bunny,
This is a couple's journey into the mysterious,
the unknown, and the paranormal.
I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm your host, Kristen Johnson.
Together we are Bigfoot and the Bunny.
Hello and happy Depnon Hail Hakate. Welcome to Bigfoot and the Bunny. I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I am Kristen Johnson.
Hope you're enjoying the new moon that's out there. It's supposed to be like a pitch black moon. Very, very dark new moon
We are supposed to
on
be,
this cycle.
yes, seeing northern lights as well in New England.
That's right.
Which has been, it's rare, but it's been, because the sun's been so active lately, it's been a couple of times now.
A lot of CME action going on.
Yes, and this new one is an X flare, which is the worst of them all.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are M's, class M's, but this one's an X flare coming.
Is there a triple X flare?
He would,
I wanna see that.
as you all know, the way he is.
Male. All right.
Ah.
How are you guys? We had a little, I don't know how to describe it. We'll call it a little confusion, I guess, with our guest that we had scheduled tonight, and no offense to them. And we ended up just like saying, hey, let's just do open lines. We haven't done one of these in a while, and they of course reflect back onto the legendary Art Bell, who used that term open lines for some of his best shows over the years. Truly a legend in radio, and we probably wouldn't be doing this now if it weren't for him.
That's right.
So and that's where callers would call in. They would tell their stories, and some of them were just freaking amazing. That's what we had back then, right before internet. People would just call up and just have this amazing ghost story. So in the spirit of that, if you're watching us and you have a story you want to tell, make sure you let us know in the chat. We'll either bring you on or tell your story, do it in the chat. I don't know how we're going to do it, but
yeah,
we'll just do some banter. Linda
Sure.
says, yes, open lines with Art was fun. They're
Well,
great.
it was-
Great. It's really cool stories. Anthony, story time. That's right.
Yes, I was doing that. Story time. I
Absolutely.
told him if he wants to come and chat, he can.
Yep. You can pop right on. We'll send you a link. Oh, good. We've Facebook popping up with notifications.
I
gotta
got it
turn
the same
that
one
off
as
somehow.
well.
Anyways, yeah, we're glad to be here, and
We're
I
glad
don't
to
know,
have all you guys be here with us as well.
exactly. Got a few things we can talk about.
Yeah.
Get some paranormal banter going on.
First of all,
Hmm.
we should talk about what you saw the other night while I was sleeping.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah, like
you guys know
history.
mediumship and psychic abilities are things that Kristen and I are always trying to develop, and we don't call ourselves by those titles because we can't really do it necessarily on command, and it's a work in progress. I mean, I think we're all psychic, we all have these abilities, but a pretty cool medium thing happened to me. We were laying in bed and again getting into that kind of hypnagogic state, but I was awake. I wasn't really half dreaming. It was Mother's Day, and for those of you who don't know, my mother passed when I was 20, and of course that's was on my mind through the day and thinking about her. And I have had visitations by her, and I've been able to see them. I've been able to get communications that felt completely foreign, and I kind of like what people in ufology call a download. I like that term. You just kind of get everything all at once, and it might be symbols and imagery that makes sense. It's usually something you would never think of, and it makes sense to you, but it's not stuff you would, your mind would even subconsciously even make up. So it was a bit of that. There was some communications there, kind of personal. I'm going to get into that, but it was kind of sense of humor was definitely there. As I described to Kristen, I kind of saw her head, and it was like she knew I could see it, and she really did have a wicked sense of humor, and it looked like almost like I don't know, a science fiction movie or something, like ooh, and then
She did
sort
it on
of
purpose.
like intentionally, and that was pretty neat. And there was some communications, and when that was done, I realized, hey, I got this moment. I definitely was feeling like I was in a theta state. We talk about brainwaves a lot here, going to alpha to theta, really being a key to be able to do any of these kind of things. And although I don't have a way of measuring my brain states, so we might get one of those.
Yeah,
We've
I'm going
talked
to
about
talk
it.
about it. Just,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Just that it says, yeah, you're on theta. But you kind of know from the practice, especially if you work with things like HemiSync and different things. Anyhow, definitely feeling in that state. And I just asked, I believe out loud, is there anybody else here with us? Is there anybody here for Kristen who's asleep next to me? And I started to see a figure on her side of the bed hovering over. And this figure was wearing tan clothes, tan shirt, button down, my tan pants, and had this hat on. And I don't know what the name of these hats are, but
You should, after looking up
Yeah.
the story of the scally.
I could not find an actual name for these things, but they're made of straw. And you may remember like W.C. Fields wearing these hats. And they're just kind of like, they're perfectly round. They don't look like there's not straw frays hanging out of them. They're clipped and, manicured. Is that a word? With like a kind of a ribbon around the top of it. And it's a very old style hat, I guess from the 30s, maybe 20s. I'm not too sure.
Sure.
But, it probably existed into the 40s and 50s. And I'm sure you could buy one today. In fact, I know you can. I'm looking it up.
My cousins have them, yeah.
They're just not very popular now. And he was wearing this hat. And he seemed to have a lot to say, though I couldn't make out the words. It's kind of like, it's hard to explain.
I'm laying there, and he says he was bent over, and he was
big smile on his face,
telling like jokes to me while I'm sleeping.
Yeah, like seeming like trying to said something very jovial to say.
Which he wasn't
So,
very.
they don't know who he is yet. So
right.
The next that happens, I see his face really clearly. And the next day, I said to Kristen, I said, did you have any relatives that wore this hat? And I described the hat. And she says, yeah. Yeah, do you want to explain that?
My grandfather, his name was Bill William, and they called him Tex. And he used to wear cowboy hats, but he used to wear that straw hat with the ribbon around it. And Chris saw that. I said, yeah. I said, it was my grandfather. I said, why? So he said,
but there's more.
What is it? What's more?
There was more things that
there
were right.
It is.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it up on the screen.
You want me? Oh, Belt Phillip? I don't know.
No.
Quiet? Okay.
No, that's not what I meant.
I don't even so.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to scroll you off that. Let me just show you the hat real fast. So again, a little more other confirmations. This kind of hat. See that?
Yeah, his was the ribbon was a little bit smaller.
This is just Google. This wasn't the actual hat I saw. So I saw the man with this kind of hat. And what about the tan clothes, Kristen?
So he was a master plumber. And he would wear like the dickies, like the tan shirt with the t-shirt underneath, the button down, and tan pants as well. And, all the time, every time, even when he retired, he wore them because, sorry, Reggie, because he was working on the garage making a studio apartment. So he'd wear them every day. That was his thing. So he was wearing, Chris saw those. And then.
Yes. And here's the kicker. Okay. So I never met Kristen's grandfather.
No,
I believe he
passed away
before,
in 2007.
Which was before we got together. And I never met him. You don't have any pictures of him in your house or anything like that. In fact, you didn't have any pictures like on your social media. And we were talking about him, like, yeah, he wore tan and he had one of those hats. And I'm like, well, I saw him, I saw his face. Do you have a picture of him? So you went digging around and I found a relative, I believe, that had a picture.
My cousin
of
Aaron.
him.
Yes.
An old picture, like more in his day.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I saw the face, it was his face. And that was just the coolest bit of confirmation I've ever seen. I mean, I don't know how to prove that or whatever, but trust me, it was the same face. And I was like, all at once, I'm like, wow, that is him. So yep. That was pretty neat. I'm like, I guess, we keep trying to do these things and we get a little further. So trying to explain it in as best we can and talk to people who are really good at it has kind of been, our driving force, because it is just really cool.
Well,
All right, see Scott C. Wilson up there. Hey guys.
Hi, Scott.
Linda says, I saw a spirit standing on the corner by a cemetery once who had that hat on. He gave me a good feeling. Oh, there you go.
Good.
Yeah, they were very popular at one time. And Jack says, damn, that's wild. And still trying to reach Echo, by the way, Jack.
Yes.
He did respond to our email today. If he pops on, we need his address for his intuitive painting from Mary Lynn Bast, and that we did last week. That was a great show. If you guys, got to see that and how she actually creates those things.
I wanted to say we had what is it? Ghost Education 101 on, and it was Philip Wyatt.
Well, he was just on, right? He was talking, and he saw him too.
Well, yeah.
But with the cowboy hat.
After the show, Philip's like, I need to ask you a question. He says, who's the relative? Because he knew it was a relative. Who's the relative that's standing behind you, waving around his cowboy hat and trying to tell jokes? And he's being funny. And I'm like, really? And that was like really the first that I thought about my grandfather being around me, at times. But there was more to that story too, as well. Just like 2 days before that, only Chris and my mom knew. My son Jacob came out, and he started singing. I was on the phone.
And what's up, Nate? Just real fast.
Hi, Nathaniel.
Just talk to
Miss you.
Love you, brother.
And I was talking to my mom on the phone. We were talking about Pa, my grandfather, and my son Jacob comes out. He was 14 and comes out and he's singing "Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen." Now that's my grandfather's song, so he would sing that all the time. He just come off the Xbox. I'm like grilling my child. Where did you hear that from? How did you get that in your head? He goes, I don't know. It just popped in my head. I'm like, oh, that's so weird. I was just talking about my grandfather and he didn't hear the song or anything. It was just weird. So I didn't tell anybody that. I just told Chris and my mom. And for Philip to have that confirmation, Philip Wyatt, he's really good.
He is really good.
I love him.
That's so crazy with the song.
So my son's singing it.
That further says he's around, but I didn't know what he looked like.
No.
No. And when she showed me the picture, she found it. It was your cousin on their Facebook in the pictures. I was like, that is the same guy.
He's freaking out. Like, oh my, he's so surprised.
It was so wild, to have all those confirmations. So he definitely watches over Kristen and seems to want to make her happy. I couldn't understand his words. Cool thing here, Scott C. Wilson.
Yeah.
Of our pun family, Paranormal United Network. We love you guys.
We love you guys.
Myself, Howard Petrie, and Chrissy Morales seen an apparition during a live broadcast on Unholy Trinity. One of the shows featured on Pun. Very good show.
It's really good.
A little risque sometimes, but we like that. And that's cool. We totally believe it. We got our cat balls on back there, and we've had weird stuff. We've had our camera move. It was moving for a while. It would move every show. Even though it was locked down, it would seem to just kind of slowly move and different things. We do a lot of stuff in here, and I guess this studio might be an open portal, if you will, if you get into this.
Well, we do things to make it that way too, and then we close the portal later. So
try to.
We check.
I don't know. We live with this stuff. I know a lot of people live in pure fear of the paranormal, and there certainly can be a backlash with attachment and that sort of thing. And we've talked about our own experiences, and we have one particular one that was very hard to shake. And we might revisit some of that stuff. I'm glad Nathaniel's out there.
Yes.
Brother Nate, one of the things we were talking about on his wonderful show, Leak Project, Ghost Notes on Leak Project, a few weeks ago, was the idea of string theory, and kind of trying to take it from the math and science that we know we don't really understand fully. We understand the concepts. We can't do the math. And I know a lot of people hear stuff like that and just go, shh. But, can science be getting closer to some certain truths in what we're all experiencing as, whether it be a paranormal investigator or a ufologist, somebody who sees UFOs, whether you're involved in the occult or a witchy person, which we also are, and like that stuff too. And this phenomena that happens is all the same related phenomena. Is there any kind of scientific merit that, they may slowly be catching up? And on that show, we talked about string theory a little bit and the idea of dimensions, right? Because let's face it, when people say, all right, Bigfoot is interdimensional, well, what does that mean exactly? Give me something a little bit more solid as to what these dimensions are. And string theory in its various forms, and there are many, does try to explain it. And it's string theory. It's not, string truth. So given that, I'll give you guys a little bit of that kind of, if you will, dumbed down view of what string theory is. And
layman terms, it's better.
Could mean to people like us that are interested in this phenomena and interested in phenomenology, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. There are different forms of string theory. In its most basic form, it encompasses 10 different dimensions. M theory is another flavor of it. It's 11. There's a bosonic string theory that incorporates 26 different dimensions. But there are a lot of similarities between the different ones. And basically what happens is if you start with like a zero dimension, because it does begin at zero, you are basically just a point in space. Okay, just picture a dot, space-time. And there's really nothing going on. You're just that one point in a two-dimensional world. And this is easy enough. You can imagine a page. It's 2 points, basically. What happens as you climb up the dimensions is the points double, essentially. It's one way to think of it, and in geometric terms. So you'd be, able to see what is along the one line. In 3 dimensions, we incorporate things like length, width, and height, and that's the world we live in now, right? We're all familiar with that. That's how we see things. Our human bodies perceive reality through our senses, essentially the 5 senses we all know about, and a lot of times maybe a 6th sense of whether it's intuition or some other perception, right? And that's where we live. 4th is time, and then from 5th we start dealing with timelines. And this is very interesting. If you're living through a timeline, your consciousness is moving through this timeline in the 5th dimension, and you make a decision and you wish you had gone back to that moment where you made that decision, made a different decision. It gives you that ability. And at that point, you'll see like a split, like a Y in a road, and a whole nother timeline begins. And now you have 2 different timelines, which your consciousness is existing in both simultaneously, right? It's like quantum entanglement, really. It's like there you are. You're in both places. You're continuing, but the effects of that decision have been changed. You cannot go back in your timeline any further than that point of decision. Now there can be other splits from there. And when you think about this, really interesting how all right, how does your consciousness grow within different timelines? If you're into like the idea of a parallel universe, multi-dimensional person, things going on, maybe you've had dreams like this where you were convinced you lived this other life. Certainly I've had times in my life where maybe there was some sort of big event in it, and I wondered if things had been differently, or could have maybe died in a car accident, and did this other timeline sprout up there where I survived and one where it just ended, that sort of thing. And that's where it goes. And you go into 5th, 6th, 7th, and moving up, say, toward 10. Eventually you get kind of godlike powers to be able to go back and forth through all those changes in your timeline, sprout new ones, and somehow our consciousness doesn't run out, if you will. If you think of it like a fuel, it's able to sustain itself independently in all those different timelines. And perhaps maybe that is where some of this phenomena occurs. I think one of the points I made on Ghost Notes, again, Nathaniel J. Gillis, great show. It's on Thursdays on Leak Project on YouTube.
With Rex Bear.
Rex Bear. He's the man. I was watching one of those videos with the Jeeps. It was so awesome. This man is living a good life.
Yeah, he is.
Anyways, get back to it. Where was I?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I
I
hope
know.
I don't lose you guys.
No, but Jack is actually Jack Kilowatt on YouTube. He's
I
actually saying,
don't want to lose my thought. Really, don't. It's important. Oh,
the same thing with the string theory. Is
simultaneous consciousness running through the timelines. Oh.
I'm sorry. Hey, you started it. You said
Yeah.
those notes.
All right, we'll go to Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Sorry.
I'm apparently the only one following this. Thanks, Kristen. Okay. Bill says, yeah,
Yee.
string theory is beautifully represented in the sacred geometry of the flower of life. That's fantastic. Yes. Linda says, I had a dream about guitars. In each dream journal of 2020, I got an image of a flatbed train car with steel guitars, each one on a pole with a metal bar floating above each guitar. And I found myself floating up to read the names of the guitar owners. I didn't recognize any of the names, but this was a dream repeated later. Right.
Wow.
We've had like dreams where we felt pretty convinced, like there was something going on. Like there was some other story. One of the things about dreaming that we've talked about, dreaming, not to sound like I'm from New England, is the familiarity of certain places that you've never been in dreams. And I find this really interesting.
That's often too for us.
Psychics is so closely related to physics. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. 100%.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm actually kind of embarrassed by that. Where was I talking about? I'm not sure. If you know, I lost my train of thought, and I'm sorry. I'll try to revisit it at some point.
I'm sorry.
You didn't do anything wrong. I just forgot where I was. I wanted to give this guy a plug. We haven't had him on the show in a long time, and this is a wonderful book, a short history of nearly, and the nearly is in parentheses, everything paranormal. And it's by Terry Simonson. And Terry is a great guy, and we've done a couple of interviews with him, but not in a while. We talked about the no bird movement.
Yeah, the no bird movement. We love that thing.
And talking about consciousness and stuff. Yeah, we're going to read a little bit of it because I really would tell you guys this is a wonderful book. I mean, there's like so many good stories in here. The history of paranormal things, paranormal archaeology, yes. And like how important this was in past times where psychics would come in and determine where to dig and discover things, and they would be right. Yeah. And many examples of that. In this little section here, he's talking about Immanuel Kant and Swedenborg, very important people. Space and time, the way we see the world. Some of Kant's philosophical contributions were made regarding consciousness, not so much how it arises, but rather how it works. Kant's most radical ideas in this area shift in perspective he himself described as a Copernican revolution after Nicholas Copernicus, of course, who gave us radically new understanding of the solar system, was that neither space nor time are parts of the physical world, but are rather embedded within our own consciousness. I want you guys to think about the implications of what he's saying here. And time are namely used by our consciousness as tools to organize our reality. What we experience will be placed in space and in time. Let's have a coffee on the pier. That's space. Tomorrow night, that's time. We met in Venice, space. In the summer 4 years ago, time. Such organizing is an all-encompassing and is done spontaneously, continuously, and inevitably. Space and time are, in some sense, the spectacles through which we see the world. Okay? What does that mean? I mean, that's our reality, right? This kind of thing. And when we start to incorporate other dimensions, other ideas about what that space and time could mean, it starts to explain how some of this phenomena may exist. Oh, and I think I do remember where I was going to go. I think
I was
ta-da! A light bulb above my head. All right. In talking about that, the different dimensions of space-time and such. Oh, I almost forgot again. Oh, yeah. All right. Two-dimensional world. If living in a two-dimensional, as opposed to the three-dimensional world that we live in, and you basically live in this like flat paper-like universe, you would only be able to see this flat horizon-like view of what's happening. A three-dimensional person, imagine a piece of paper, this is pretty easy, right? Puts their hand through it. You're not going to see the hand coming. You're not going to see the hand going. You're only going to see it as it crosses your dimension, which is going to appear as this meaty, fleshy mass.
Water.
Going through your dimension. You may see like the fingers, right, going through as you reach through, but you're only seeing one portion of it. So you don't get a view of everything that's going on. What we're saying is, okay, how does this work in a 3D world that we live in, and we're dealing with something that is of a greater dimension, a 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th godlike dimension comes through. Like, how does that affect us? Our vision of what that is, our interpretation of all our physical senses, as limited as they are, is not going to be enough to fully understand the phenomena that is occurring in front of us. And I think that's worth thinking about. There is math and science that backs that up. So just something to think about. Thought I'd put it out there. We talk more about it again on Nathaniel's show, Ghost Notes on Leak Project. So do check it out. Great show. He does it every Thursday. And Leak Project is an amazing channel. It's been around for a very long time and has a lot of people on it talking about the same kind of craziness that we love. All right, getting back to some of these comments. Where are we? Oh, there was a whole bunch.
Oh, yes.
Jack, thank you. You were talking about the first dimension now. Yep, exactly.
I was talking about the 11th and the 2nd.
On the nuances. That's right. And all right, let's talk about that. Frequency, that's the part I left out. The strings themselves are subatomic, okay? And the particles, this is what is theorized in string theory. Particles that make up atoms are made up of tiny strings, and these strings are vibrating. Okay, now I never like that phrase, and it's used way too much. Raise, lower your vibration, all that. It's just a way, perspective of us talking about things that are maybe more ethereal or more chthonic in nature, meaning from the earth as opposed to the Etherian realms. And we don't know those numbers, so I don't know about that correlation, although, no offense to people that use it, we use it ourselves. Anyways, they are vibrating at a certain frequency, and that frequency is what makes up the particle, whether it's an electron, a photon, a neutron. It depends on the frequency of the strings, which are basically these little tiny quantum loops in strings. And it is theorized that everything is made up of this stuff. Depending on the frequency they're vibrating at, you end up with the end result. It might be this book. It might be the table in front of us. It might be this beautiful woman next to me. We don't really know, right? But it's all vibrating at a certain frequency. So something in a different dimension, made up of perhaps different strings, or perhaps just not within our realm of perception, integrates, like, say, a deceased person, a non-human entity, an alien, is vibrating maybe at a frequency that is just off from ours, and that's why it's in that dimension. Just throwing some theory out here, hypothesis really. Integrates just enough that we see it, and maybe this explains things like why you can have 10 people in a room and an apparition walks across the ballroom, yet only 3 of the 10 see it. And they're all looking in the same direction. And this stuff happens time again. Food for thought, guys. If you have any stories related to this, please bring it up in our chats.
That and the links. David Taylor wanted to come on. Victor Santiago and
hey there, Victor.
Anthony.
I see Marilyn Bass.
Yeah, he's David Taylor. It's all set up to get a link.
Oh yeah, David Taylor. Yes, I remember exactly who you are. Joshua Dixon. We will have you on. I'll get your link.
Yes.
Coming up. Bear with us. Let me get through a few of these things. What's going on? Yeah, Josh, we saw on Facebook you're having a pretty bad week. And I'm so sorry. Hang in there, my friend.
Got you back.
It is interesting how life just, light and dark all through life, and pain and pleasure.
It's balance.
These principles, you wouldn't know one without the other, and it doesn't make it okay. Pain is not okay, but it is our life experience, isn't it? Scott says, I read where they say when we sleep, we dream we are having an out-of-body experience in another dimension, and it's very possible with lucid dreaming, astral projection, which we've had those experiences. And Chris and I both had dreams where we felt like that had to be another timeline. There was a little time where we were both having these very clear, lucid like dreams.
Now that's when we were doing binaural beats in the gateway. So that's when that happened to me, because I don't remember having any timeline dreams. Not that I remember. This I remember because I went through four different timelines. It was just really bizarre. It's just, I don't know.
Well, it's vagary. What do you mean you went through four different?
I went through like.
You can tell the story. I think it's a pretty good story. I like it.
Well, I went to this. What?
I'm poking
you. Stop. All right. So I went to this house, and I kept bugging this woman. I had to give her a roller skate in order, an old time roller skate. Weird. And she had a red hat on. She had taken it off at one point, so it was near the roller skate. And she wanted to get out of the house, so I gave her her red hat. And the only way in my mind anybody could get out of the house was to give them this roller skate. And I did, and she left the house. And then I dreamt again. It was the same house again, but it had different people in it, and I had to pass them a red hat to have them get out of the house. And then I went back, and I remember I went to I didn't go to the house. I went to a pond where I've never been before. We had tall pine trees, and I had my blue love sweatshirt on in my dream. And I remember someone or something lifting me up, and I was going through the tops of the tall pine trees, and I'm screaming, I am love. Of course, with the shirt on, had no idea why or anything. And then all of a sudden I went back to the house again, but different people were there. Now I've never seen this house before until my dream. And there was a kid sitting on the couch with another child, and they were watching TV, and he stands up and he looks at me, and he turns around and goes down, and through the hallway he's screaming to the left, Mom, she's here again. And I went there, and I went down the hallway, and I looked at this woman. I'd never really seen her. And she goes, hey, how you doing? I knew you'd be back. And then I ended up in the trees in the forest again, which was so bizarre. But it was the way I felt. It's nothing like I've ever had before. So that's why I'm saying we were listening to the binaural beats. There's something to that. There really is. And as we went by a place that we have down the street from Chris's house, Lincoln Woods, I said to Chris, I've always been drawn there, but I've never went. And I said to Chris, oh my God. I said, oh my God, that's where it was.
Yeah, you saw that. All right. So, and it was very real.
Yeah.
You were able to describe this in great detail, and you felt like you were living this other life. And I guess where I'm going with that is if our timelines can split, right? Like string theory theorizes, and that we can have these multiple timelines of us, of yourself as a person running through it.
Mm-hmm.
How does your consciousness do that? Does it grow for every timeline? Does it just double? Does it split? Do you lose something in that? I don't know. It's kind of a big thought. David Taylor, I don't see. Hit me up if you want a link. And
hit Chris up for me, please.
And I'll send it to you.
Chris Clark.
You see, Chris wants them. Yeah. Let's see. Reggie says, the universe planned it that way. Only 3 of the 10 people were supposed to see that apparition. Right. We feel like that's a thing. One of the stories we tell a lot, I know we've told a lot of these same stories, but they were kind of big stories. We're at an undisclosed location that we have revealed on the show before, but I'm not going to right now. was a certain Quaker cemetery where we had a lot of phenomena occur. Kristen was walking around with the recorder with her headphones plugged in. Everything she's hearing is coming through that recorder. They were these same kind of headphones which block out a lot of the external noise. I'm walking around. We're next to her without that. We both hear somebody yell at us, go, "Hello!" Scare the crap out of us. Like, it was loud. It was not a whisper. It was not none of this whispery EVP stuff.
It was wicked
business. Loud. It was super loud. We both jumped up in the air. And when we played the recording back, it wasn't there. You hear us freaking out. So it was able to just put it in our eardrums very selectively.
Right.
It was not on a recorder that she was holding. Very interesting stuff, and kind of brings about some deep thoughts, and that's where we're going. So, if you have some stories about this, we'd love to hear them.
Hey, Joe.
Joe Fox, how you doing?
Welcome.
Okay. Let's see here. Just see that.
See, the thing about us is a lot of people don't understand is that we are not just investigators. We love, we want to know the wows and highs, the highs and wows. That's it. We want to know.
Well, how it works,
and that's why we are into the string theory. We're into all these theories, like everyone else is, trying to get answers.
Fully aware that not everybody has all the answers, and it's unlikely we will, but we at least are kind of making ground. We certainly see commonalities between things like shamanism and a ghost hunt. And I like that word,
but
it's there. There are things that are in line with each other when you stop and look at it. All right, Mr. Bill Metz sent me a picture.
Did.
He did. I'm going to try to share this.
When the computer cooperates with me, I break so many things.
StreamYard is a little picky.
CMEs?
Yeah.
Blame everything on CMEs.
Solar flares are affecting our stream, perhaps. You may have noticed we've had less EVP-like occurrences since we took the hum out of our stream.
Yes.
Which goes on to another theory of ours, right, Kristen?
What's that? Theory of...
the painter's palette. That noise and other environmental conditions give spirit more tools to talk with. They're the very same things we call pareidolia. And I'm not saying there's no pareidolia.
No, but look at a cloud. Yeah, it's pareidolia.
I think the reason why spirit boxes and different things do work so well,
even apps, which
is because they have more to work with.
Yeah, a lot of people
our dimension
don't like them, but we believe and we have experienced that spirit can touch anything and talk through anything and tell you. We actually had a really cool experience at Wilson Castle with that, with an app, I hate that word, app. Word bank.
It wasn't the genuine Ovios, it was a similar word bank application. I forget the name of it. But we had it work through two different apps, so they said the same thing. And I believe they were both in airplane mode, which is the way you got to use these apps. And set it, and then we had an event occurred. They all said drop.
Fall. Remember, the box, the spirit box.
Drop. It says drop. And then the other box that Shay had, Shay's Paranormal Chat. We love Shay. She says it says drop.
Paranormal Buzz Radio.
Paranormal Buzz Radio. Awesome podcasts on there. And Shay's mother, Deb, actually, she dropped through a chair. It all happened within a little short chain reaction.
They all do,
which
like little
is
bursts.
How a lot of bursts.
Yeah.
How this phenomena seems to work. It's like those frequencies line up enough for something to happen, and then they pull back. Or something.
The energy, you can feel it.
Things all happen. The REM pods go off. The thing, it's like all this activity, and it's gone. In some cases, it's gone for the entire night. In some cases, it might just be a short while. But there's something to that. All right, Bill Metz sent us this photo. I'm going to add it here. What do we have going on here?
It's like Breaking Bad house. I don't know why.
This looks like two pictures mashed together. Let's see if I got a comment on there. Gotta go through. I'm sorry.
Bill, we looking at Spirit? That's a cool tree.
Bill, how is this not two photos? Did you take this as one picture and somehow it captured this way? Was there anything going on with the shutter speed of said picture? Very interesting to take one picture and have this like line right down the middle. You can see there are absolutely two different angles. Directions of sunlight are different on the left and right sides of this picture, but essentially it is the same house and street. Very interesting. Joshua Dixon says, you're an owl, Kristen.
Ooh.
Who? You.
Ooh.
Who? Reggie says, just LOL, my mind took a wrong turn.
Always.
Well, yes, I understand this. Reg?
Took the left turn in Albuquerque. What's that saying? Wrong turn in Albuquerque.
Jack says, I would suggest that we are capable of experiencing multiple timelines and dimensions, but only if we could train ourselves to do so. And that is kind of where HemiSync and things like the Gateway.
And I'm typing that
Come in.
now to Linda Morrison. That's weird. Synchronicity. Yeah.
There you go. Come into play.
Yep.
Josh says, Reg is the best, and I love him because his heart is in it. And it certainly is. And we love him for the same reasons, Joshua.
Yes. Nice little chat. Chat's going.
Do you keep journals of all your dreams
Yes, I
when
do.
using binaural beats? Okay, well, it's an on and off thing. Linda, let's be honest. We get into points, and this has gone on for forever. I've been doing this stuff on and off for 20 or more years, keeping dream journals. And there'll be times, and I get trained to do it, and I remember to do it, because it does take practice. You have to make yourself do it. It takes, it can take a couple of weeks to get into a pattern where you immediately write things down. And we'll do it, and then I won't.
Me
And
neither.
it's gone.
As I was just telling
And
Linda.
we've both gone through this. But also fully recommend that people
Do.
try it.
Yeah.
I wish I was more religious with it. It is great to look back on. Any kind of logging. And this goes for any sort of investigating research you're doing. Logging is important. You will see trends in it. Dream journaling is a wonderful way to enhance your next dream. If you actually do train your mind by doing that, by writing down the dreams you had the day before, you are training your mind to remember on a subconscious level, which seems to be the key to it all, to recall what the experience is, if it's timelines, whatever it is. So, you can't really differentiate between, what's going to be a timeline dream because it hasn't happened yet, and what's just a normal dream of whatever happened in your day that is just clearly a reflection of that.
That also, it's the theory, but the theory behind like the Mandela effect or deja vu. It's something like that you ask that question. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we were in a different, or we were, in a different parallel or a parallel universe, and we saw it, but then we came back. How do we know that doesn't happen to us when we're sleeping, like somebody had said, or I don't know, like we switch back and forth. It's really like a mind blow.
Exactly, because when you're dreaming, for all intents and purposes, that is your reality, right? I mean, that's it. You don't know that you're sleeping in the bed unless you're having an astral dream and you're looking at your body. You're experiencing things as if you were there. You can move your arms, you can move your hands, you can run down the road. It's reality to you. So how is that any different than the one that we tend to drift back to? And perhaps we do have all these timelines, and they all intersect in some way in our dreams. And for a little while, we're in that other timeline. We come back and go, oh yeah, here it is. That was a crazy dream.
I had to I kind of got freaked out when Chris said about my grandfather being over me and saying jokes over me. I'm like, oh shit. Well, how many other spirits do that to us while we're sleeping? So I kind of took a step back and I had to say, "Hey, Pa, please don't do that while I'm sleeping. I don't know if you're trying to make me not have a nightmare or something, which I very rarely don't, but I don't know, but it was kind of freaking me out. I freaked out a little bit. I'm like,
A little bit.
step back, please,
I don't know.
don't
You
do that. I don't
should.
know.
I mean, I think he's there as a guide,
I think so too.
and definitely didn't have ill intention. I didn't get that vibe at all. But I didn't see anybody else in the room at that time, so at least at that time, the frequencies were lining up in that way.
Right.
And maybe he wanted to be seen by me. I don't know. But it was so cool to have that confirmation, see the picture, and go, that is his face.
Yeah.
And it was exactly his face.
And
That's why I saw it. I've never seen this man before. So,
yep. Joe Fox has a really good question to this. He says, "How do I set intentions of what I want to dream?"
by setting the intention before you go to bed, right? I mean, literally
About it.
telling yourself that you want to strongly tell yourself, I want to have this dream about a certain thing or know the answer to a certain question. Another thing you could do if you're keeping that dream journal, which you should, if you're going to do dream work, write it down. Write it down, 50 times. I will dream of this, or I will know the answer.
Yeah.
Not as a question, but as a statement of it's going to happen or has happened already.
That actually writing down something like that actually really works because you're training your brain. You're just everything is you got to do it. It's physical as well. So doing that as well, I believe, in my opinion, that works really, really, really well. Chris
I think
is right.
that's sound advice.
Yeah.
From both of us. Write it down. Write it down.
See
Write
what
it down
happens.
repeatedly. Drill it because it's the subconscious is the glue between all this stuff.
Let us know what happens.
If you're into remote viewing, you're working with your subconscious. If you're doing oracle cards, something else Kristen and I are working on, and you may see in the near future, we'll see. It's a lot of it's subconscious, and it just makes imprints. You think about a person. What is the initial things? How does the card relate to that initial imprint? Remote viewing, you're given the number that somebody has determined in their mind, their subconscious and conscious, that's a particular location. And, what does it look like? You have no idea. But you get similar shapes, things, boom, comes to you. It's easier than you think. It sounds so, what's that term? Woo, right? It sounds so woo.
Woo.
But when you actually go and try some of these things, especially remote viewing, you'd be surprised how easy it is to get at least some of it right. It's shocking, and it's right there. And it shows that we are actually all connected in some way.
I freaked out my last one. I was like, oh my God. Because for a week I couldn't see anything out of the right side of my eye. And I wasn't even thinking about it. So we had a week to do our class to write this all down. And I'm like, I texted her and I'm like, I can't see out of my right side. It feels so weird. I said, not even thinking about it. So I wrote it all down. I did everything, what I saw, and come to find out it was the face on Mars. And it was like almost exactly right. And I'm like, oh my God. And I freaked out. I'm like, I cannot believe that. And that's why if you look at it in most pictures, you'll see that it's shadowed on the right side. So it did freak me out a little bit. Like, how the hell do you come up with this shit?
Right. That was the target. It was unbeknownst to both of us. And she pretty much drew it. She had this idea that the light was on one side.
Yeah.
And
my subconscious was telling me.
Physical eye, too. You have one kind of bad eye, and it's shadowy, and like all that played a role into what you drew before you knew what the target was. And you pretty much drew it, right out. So there it was. Amazing. It was right there. That's work. Buzz on the phone.
Alrighty.
Have a good night, Scott. Okay, at this point, Linda made with the binaural beats in the theta state. Yeah, alpha and theta is where things happen. And you see this also in witchcraft and occult, like trance states. This is where things happen. When you're in a hypnagogic state, where's your brain? You're like a theta to delta state. You're getting deeper and deeper. When we do Estes method on Greg Coss's wonderful show, Metaphysical Crossings, every Wednesday night, I know most of you are familiar with. We're trying to get into that. In fact, this device, our Wonderbox, it's right over here. I don't know if I'll show it to you guys, but you've probably seen it on here before. The thing that makes it a little different than ones in the past, and this is where technology is going. So you have this inexpensive guitar amplifier that has a Bluetooth channel, and we're able to mix the channel of the spirit box coming through it with something I can run theta binaural beats off my phone in the other channel. I can also run word banks like we did in Pickens, the haunting of the mill. We were talking about this past week with the horns in Maryland Bast, Horn Paranormal Research. And
Plug.
yeah, plug. And that was interesting. Just brings another, I hate to use this word again, dimension to what we're trying to do with, the spirit box and that sort of thing. So I love any kind of research in that direction of
We both
binaural
do.
beats. We both do.
Oh God, yeah.
Gateway Project, which was done many, many years ago.
Yeah,
We're finally catching up. Jack says, for example, trained Buddhist monks and certainly the Dalai Lama have reported experiencing both the future and past through meditation, and yet they admit they only experienced a possibility of each. Right. Some people theorize that, all this stuff is written out in the Akashic records or whatever that might be, meaning your past, your future, your present time are all occurring at the same time, maybe on multiple timelines, and maybe it's only a vibrational difference to go from one to another. Linda says, theta waves are strong during internal focus, meditation, prayer, and spiritual awareness. Yeah, that is the state your brain is before you hit delta and you are basically asleep. It is a meditation level, and you are open to more things, and that is what we're trying to achieve on metaphysical crossings, and when we're doing these sort of experiments with ITC and other things, getting into this kind of zone.
Mm-hmm.
Reggie says,
yes.
Most are not theories, they are facts. Science and technology are 2,000 Earth years behind our truth and communication with the universe, alien technology. But forget the aliens. What about our military? They're 20, 30, 40 years ahead of us.
Don't even get me started.
We don't even know what that tech is that's going on out there.
No.
We haven't built a new fighter plane, that we know publicly to be any different than planes we built in the 1970s. Do you really believe that nothing has changed? We don't.
Yeah.
Things have changed. There's more tech going on that we are well aware of in any way, shape, or fashion. Vixen Dell, hello, Vixen.
Yes.
The Celts believed that the past, present, and future exist all at the same time. That is where the intertwined lines in their artwork originates from. Well, that's very interesting. I didn't know that. That's the, inspiration, right? Subject in itself of where those intertwined lines come from in Celtic art, which we love so much. And I have seen myself in various brain state strikers.
Yes, you have.
On
in
the deck,
sky.
coming from the sky to the ground.
Yeah, I do remember.
Yes. And it may or may not have something to do with altered states of consciousness. But I see them in a rather consistent manner when I go to those places. Very interesting. And you also see similar stuff like in the Mayan and Aztecs, Incas. That is kind of similar to that kind of Celtic knotwork. And I do think there is something to that, Vixen. So great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
And thank you for being here, Vixen Doe.
Yeah, I've seen you well. Welcome back. Oh, that's you?
That's me. About the binaural beats. I stopped.
Jack says there's also a tribe in South America whose language has no past or future tenses. They only speak in the present tense. Yes, I've heard about things like this. Native Americans will do that. Certain tribes didn't like to say goodbye. They use the word called taxa.
Aloha?
And it kind of means until we meet again. Like there is no real goodbye.
How do you say it?
Taxa.
Taxa.
Yeah.
Do you know which?
I believe it's Cherokee.
That's neat. Because it reminds me of Aloha in Hawaii. Their language, they don't want to say goodbye or, so they say that. Aloha for hello and goodbye.
Linda says, I've used 3 different mind machines with light strobe glasses over the past 15 years. I wonder if you guys have used those. No, but we're very interested in that. Wearing the goggles with the lights. We talked to Katie Stafford of Supernatural Inc., the technomancer.
Yes.
As it were. Yeah, he's got some, great ideas, and draws from all these kind of devices to create new versions of them. And that is one of the things I know he works with. I would like to try it. We would like to try that.
He actually showed us something. I think it was behind the scenes of what he was working on. It looked something like that. And Reginald Randall has something, who's in the chats, something similar
Mhm.
to that. So
I think they call it the Ghost Helmet, but a lot of people would find it by looking up God Helmet.
Yeah.
And it was presented by the people on Hellier
Mm.
in their series of the magnets. Magnetism is got a bigger role than any of us have totally figured out yet. I first came across magnetism working with the sorcerers, who said, all right, this is a way to communicate with the dead. Magnets are important. She has very large magnets. And as the reason why our skull, among other reasons, is loaded with magnets and crystals,
Yes.
because we found this to be true. They are able to utilize that EMF somehow differently than other EMF sources. And it's not hard to believe that there would be something to that, to magnets themselves, as opposed to EMF generators, because things like your microwave oven in your kitchen put off a shitload of EMF. And all our microwaves should absolutely be haunted and full of ghosts. It's that simple.
Everything should be.
You're taking out that burrito, something should be handing it to you. It really should just float out, because if you ever take a K2 meter to your microwave when it's running, you'll be shocked. And that's why you're not supposed to stand in front of your microwave and wait for things to be done. You're exposing yourself to a high level of electromagnetic frequency. Linda says, another 2020 dream was carrying about 2 baby owls. Neither of them were nest mates. They went places with me. That was sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I love owls.
That's cool.
I don't know why he said that. I just, Joshua.
Good stuff. Chris, smart dude. Yes. Maybe explain your picture, Bill, when you have a chance to put it up.
Yes, please. Are you still in with us? Are you still with us, Bill Metz?
Mr. Bill Metz. I do know in this life a story was told to my son that was not true and had the effects of separating us. Yeah. Belief. Where does belief come into play?
Yeah.
If you believe something, do you manifest it? Manifestation. It seems to happen on a quantum level. We've talked about the double slit experiment many times, and I think most of you are aware of that, whether it's photons or electrons being shot through a double slit piece of cardboard, how they act differently on the board behind them, how they land differently, based on whether people are watching it or not, whether it works as a wave or a particle. Very interesting. It goes a step further with our friend Gail Heisen, who's worked with people like Dr. Gene Radin. Gail's a psychic and a shaman, and a very good one. And her and other people are able to manipulate where those photons landed psychically, which is psychokinesis. And that's the whole next level. And this stuff is real. It's been proven. It's real. We don't talk about it in mainstream, but it's real. Reggie says, I caught on my security cameras me saying what I was saying in my dream, but in a whisper. Kind of makes me wonder if some of our EVP recordings are being dreamed about, talking to us from somewhere else in the universe. Maybe, my friend. Maybe. Maybe it's your own self, talking to your own self. Joshua's laughing about something. I'm not sure. I probably gaffed on something. I'm not sure. Pink. Pink or brown?
Be quiet.
Pink or brown? What?
No,
don't go there.
No, Dad.
That's a whole other conversation.
Hi, Jenny.
Jenny. Hi from Ireland. Taking a break from audio work. Well, welcome to Bigfoot and the Bunny. Thank you for joining us in our open lines conversation.
Yes. Well, it will be, because David's still waiting. I'm texting him. Text him now.
Message me, David, so I can give you the link. It's easier for us. Linda, you can choose multicolored or single colored. I find multicolored makes me immediately feel like I've been sedated. And that's in reference to the glasses. And I guess they go in a rhythmically flash in your eyes. and you would see this even with your eyes closed. Is it similar to that, Linda? Joe says manifesting is completely real. I've experienced it, or maybe it was prayer. Oh, they're along the same lines, right?
Right.
As is spell work, as is the secret. It's all kind of the same stuff. And apparently, on a quantum level, we have the ability to affect particles, be they waves, be they bilocation, that meaning that they're in two places at one time and one follows the other. Very interesting stuff when you start to look into physics. It does help to look into it because a lot of these things get thrown around like without any kind of understanding the background of what's going on. You don't have to have a physics degree to understand at least some of the concepts. So I encourage everybody to educate themselves. YouTube is a wonderful resource, as are books like this. Again, Terry, giving you a plug tonight, brother. Short History of Nearly Everything Paranormal. This is a fantastic book you can get on Amazon, and you should. Barbara Woodbury Spears out there. Don't be sorry.
Hi, Barbara.
Late. We're glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. We're on late. We had a late start.
Yes, don't tell her. He's right.
Josh says, we are destroying our planet so much and different alien races are trying to save us. Well, that is one theory. That is definitely one theory, or hypothesis, that they are trying to save us, that they are trying to keep us from destroying ourselves. And that is the way a lot of abductees walk away feeling. And then there's another one, that they're not all nice. And that we need to be careful of the beings that we talk to. And I agree with both. I think some of them are here, just like people. You know, some are cool, some want to help, and some would like to see you wince in pain. There are horrifying tales of abduction.
We actually get into some of that with Nathaniel Gillis,
who's
on Ghost of the Project.
Nefarious. We love that word, nefarious, right?
Oh, yeah, that's Chris's
very,
word.
very nefarious.
I'm maniacal. He's nefarious.
You guys do know we started off as like an audio podcast.
Yeah.
I think most of you guys know that. If you don't, and you podcast, look them up. Yeah, we were kind of immature. It's quite a few years ago.
Well, it's
starting out.
We just started.
Oh my God, they took us a long time to do. We couldn't get our words right. We put so much time into those things.
Oh, and yes, I forgot.
But there's some great data presented that we were capturing at the time, and especially proud of the Native American one we did. Just the research involved and what that history is really like. Hard to find some of that stuff anywhere. We dug deep on that one.
It's hot on over there.
Reggie says, every voice that comes through for me, I have manifested. All activity is manifested. Okay, well, that's an interesting point. So what is speaking to us? When you say, you know, it's prime, it's this or that person, when you say you're manifesting it, are you bringing about an external spirit? Are you bringing about some aspect of yourself that knows the answers, or that has the ability to traverse those timelines, or to get to that person? Right? Deep stuff. We're going to dig into Colombian gold and go a little deeper. Jack says, speaking of the double split, what does Chris think about the findings? To me, it means that we all create the reality as we see fit. When we need to see it that way, we want. Thoughts? Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And I think that is part of the manifestation aspect. And the truth is, like, let's face it, for the most part, most of us, if there's something we want in life and we focus on it, we will achieve it. If we stay positive and understand that it is attainable, you can attain anything, you know. And it's that belief system. It's like the 4-minute mile, right? For years and years and years, runners around the world could not achieve a 4-minute mile. There's a big history. Google this. But once one person did it, and that belief with all the people that have been training all their lives to run fast enough to do a 4-minute mile, all of a sudden it was like the walls came down and everybody could run a 4-minute mile. Why? What changed? It wasn't steroids. It was just the belief. One person did it, and then once people knew on a deep level that it could be done, lots of people could do it. It's manifestation.
How do you spell ether?
ETHER.
You didn't. It looks funny.
That's bringing forth some spirit.
I did that earlier. Chris did as well. We have our Bell Witch right here. Witch spray. Oh my God. Spirits.
Velvet.
I'm all right.
Love you. Love you too, Josh. You're the
Love
best,
you.
man.
Yes.
Hang in there. I know you're going
Yes.
through some shit. Oh, but you. Attention is the key no matter what religion or culture. Yeah, agree.
Answer everybody. Tell them great.
Ether is actually spelled LSD. Lysergic acid. How about some of it?
So I was just going to say, how about those Celtic knots? Oh,
Shall gives a check mark. All right.
computer is on LSD right now. Way back.
I don't see a message from you yet, Dave. Message me, Chris Carr, on Facebook.
I told him that. I hope it's
StreamYard
another
up
one.
and can give you the link.
Yeah, there's another Chris Carr as well. So
Oh, you might have the wrong one.
Yeah.
I thought we were friends, so we've talked on
Yeah.
Facebook before, so I shouldn't be that.
I'm sorry. The struggle.
I
is
know
real.
with great strength, I have the ability to talk to them. I managed to fest that through the universe. They are more confident to come forward and happy to. Well, that goes and speaks to the idea of relationships, right? So if you want to talk to guides, Kristen, what did I tell you when you were having activity in your house and it was kind of bugging you out? Because as most of our audience knows, you're very turned off to the paranormal for
I thought everything
damn good
was
reason.
negative, so.
Yeah,
Spirits.
yeah.
I thought all
Negative
spirits.
events that happen in your childhood with spiritual
You
beings,
told me
shadow
to talk
people.
to the house and talk to the spirits. Is that where you're going with that?
Mhm.
That's what you told me to do, and I did.
Mhm.
And we have clips of that. When I started talking, you should play that clip.
Yeah.
And you hear me
But-
freaking out.
Before we did the session for a little while, there was, a month or two there, I was like, well, talk to them. If you feel like they're there and they're standing there, say hi. Maybe it's a guide. Maybe it's somebody in your family. You don't know. It could be something good. You don't know. Just talk to them and try to establish a relationship. And I think this is kind of a way that people should approach spirits on investigations, because you're not there to be the enemy. You know what I mean? It's not all like, oh,
We're there to help.
evil because you're a
can.
ghost. If you want to have a relationship, start one. I think you'll get more communication that way. Yeah, we have some clips you can revisit. Let's do that while we're waiting for
Hold on, David.
various folks. For David and other peeps. I know Reggie is working on something too. Let's see. I think this is from that time. I'll play you a clip off the board here. Oh, is that what you're hearing?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Kristen,
I can't wait to play it back.
sounded like Kristen.
So that was the first session that I was able to get Kristen to do in her
I
house.
never did.
She never did that.
No.
We did it was 20 minutes long. 10 minutes of asking for questions with nobody home, trying to get EVPs, which we got, and 10 minutes of spirit box, and you quite clearly hear a name there. Things were particularly active at that time. Oh, we were talking about you, Philip Wyatt.
It's my psychic.
And Kristen's grandfather that you saw with the cowboy hat. I had a vision of him as well, but with a different hat that I didn't know he wore, and saw him quite clearly, his face and all, which we were able to confirm, as well as his favorite clothes. So you were spot on, brother. And we mentioned you a little earlier in the show.
Philip knows that story about, because like I said, he's the one who had confirmed that my grandfather was behind me, and that was after the show. And he's my psychic. He confirmed like everything afterwards. So
he liked a good joke.
Yes, well,
that's kind of what I got from
him
it too.
The show was really.
I've
weird.
never met him. I never saw a picture of him. I mean,
no.
It's good.
Chris saw him the other night, and he was literally telling jokes in my ear while I was sleeping.
Yeah, but I couldn't make him out. They just sounded like this voice kind of. I was like,
Hey.
I don't know. It just sounded weird, but that's just how I heard it. Doesn't mean that's what he was actually doing.
He's got a Texan
You-
accent. It's hard to hear.
Maybe we're interpreting it on some level as those jokes. Stephen Woodward, hello from the great state of New Mexico,
Hey, Stephen.
and home of Skinwalker Cave
Yes.
Complex. Well, that's interesting, Steve. I don't know about the Skinwalker Cave Complex, and if you feel like coming on and talking about it,
Yes.
I'll send you a link, brother.
Please do.
Interested. Jack says, back to a serious discussion about reality and the nature of the universe. The James Webb is giving us new understanding. I feel like these new findings will change the paranormal as well.
Yes.
Well, they probably will. You know, we're basing all of everything outside of Earth on something called the Big Bang and measuring how fast things are moving in this expanding universe, which doesn't seem all that logical. I don't know. I suppose there's more there. We have no explanation for dark matter, dark energy. All we can do is measure it. We don't know what it is. It traverses our own bodies in storms. We don't know it. We're not aware. Interesting stuff. Absolutely. Linda says, Chris Harmon reports that MUFON knows about 63 alien races. I read a book about 82. I think we have that book.
Yes, it's 82.
We were doing Alien of the Week for a
73.
while. That was one of our little gimmicky things. Cryptid of the Week, Alien of the Week. I still like this stuff. It's fun.
Yeah.
Some are beneficial. Some are both good and bad. So we need to check everyone out. Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, could you mute me, please, so I can open my soda?
You are officially muted.
Thank
Knock and you shall receive.
you. Oh, that's interesting.
Shave and haircut. That goes back to this, right?
What members of Kristen's family are here?
Oh my God, you gotta stop this. I'm like freaking.
And that was that same 20-minute session. And you hear a spirit voice say Thomas. And who is Thomas, Kristen?
Thomas is my dad. So, and that was my first session ever.
And one of our big questions was about your family being around and your dad, who you do have pictures of in your house. And
Yes.
and it's sort of an ancestral altar, if you will. You
Yeah,
know.
I like the way you put that. Yeah.
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 I think that's a wonderful thing for people to do, to get in touch with spirits and their ancestors, is to put pictures up of them, look at them, and celebrate them.
Yes. That's
You know,
why
we
I-
love
okay.
Day of the Dead, the Mexican holiday, for that very reason, the Memorial Day, and
Yes.
things where we look back, because it does seem to empower them, and it helps with the communication for sure.
Absolutely.
These are positive beings.
Most of them.
Most of them. You don't have to put pictures of ones you don't like. Reggie says, all souls are created equal. I heard every swear word you can think of from them. Yes, we have too. And that was just while they were bullshitting with me. Nothing evil. Our soul is the same as theirs. Yeah, and we may have more power, at least in our domain, right? Which is that 3D universe, to lose them and not be as affected. And not everybody gets possessed or able to, divert some of that. Though it can be difficult in certain situations if they're clever. Kristen, it's to you, I believe. Philip asked, it was their anniversary recently.
That page is broken down here, so I was going to answer him. And yes, I believe my grandparents' anniversary was, I believe, at the end of April. So it wasn't recently, but yeah, you're right. David's leaving.
Okay, well, we'll catch you next time, David. Let's talk to you some more, especially about the project you mentioned.
Yes.
We haven't rolled that out, and I don't know. We're just trying to figure things out, how we grow. I'd be glad to talk to you about that offline anytime. Steven says, I would Chris Carr and Kristen Johnson, but I have 0 hours capacity, extremely shitty internet service. No worries,
I was
Steven. They're
just
just
texting.
throwing out there because
Yeah.
that sounded pretty interesting.
Yes.
Skinwalker Cave Complex.
That means you have to come on. We'll have to book you
And,
on our show.
Exactly. You got to come on sometime when it's not vacation. There's lots we want to know. Steven caught amazing apparitions a couple years ago at Fear Fest. What was it, the Masonic Lodge? What do you call that? We didn't go. We wanted to go.
Yep.
We first came on Pun. You guys were doing that. They were awesome. And think about apparition photography. Apparitions don't reflect light. How do you take a picture of something that doesn't reflect light? That's a question posed by this guy who's been on our show before. Some of you may be familiar with Lloyd Auerbach. Maybe in this book, one of them. We got a few of his books. It's a great question. Like, how do you take a picture of a ghost, right? If it doesn't reflect light. And it's like the ghost has to make a psychic imprint into photography. Has to do some psychical thing to even make that happen. The same way we would see them, you know? It's like they're affecting our senses intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see Irene's out there. What's going on, Irene? How is Japan today? I've heard you guys had a lot of earthquakes recently.
Good Lord, yeah, one was 7.7 or something like that.
Chelsea's no one liking this vibe. Celebration of the dead is on my birthday, July 16th. We feed our dead relatives.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Great. That's great. The idea of leaving offerings to the dead and communications with the dead goes back to our hunter-gatherer days, as we're discovering.
Yes.
Very clearly, people like Irving Finkel have detailed in his book, like The First Ghosts, about how in those cuneiform tablets, you know, the Anunnaki that tell the stories of these aliens coming down, also very much respected their dead. They buried them under their dwellings.
Yes.
And the oldest son of each family was kind of responsible for leaving the offerings and keeping that in line.
Every night.
It was very common for some of them to be upset. And what they did when they were upset was they would exhume them, remove the head or skull, which is why we have the Wilson skull with the magnets and the crystals, and talk to it. They would literally set it down on the main table of their dwelling and talk and work things out. Magic and divination, especially necromancy, were a very commonly accepted practice. It was not weird. It was not bizarre. It wasn't scary. It was just something they did. And that practice, they found, goes back before people were gathering enough to not be the hunter-gatherers, right? They found burial sites with, there'd be two different burial sites, and they would take the heads out of one and put them in another, and there was something very special about the head. And we'll talk more about that in the future.
Basically why we've got Wilson.
The Wilson, and which is named after Wilson's Castle, by the way. Bob Burnell, if you're out there, that's why we call that skull that, because that's where we test piloted it.
Yeah.
And with great success in that prop room I mentioned to you in chat, a room that they then won't go in.
Yeah.
We're getting crazy banana stuff on ITC with the skull, and as well as like K2's going off seemingly in waves. There's just something about that magnetic energy that not everybody's touched on yet.
Go
ahead.
Go up the next one real quick, please.
What is the special date coming up?
So the special date coming up is June 11th, and the next one is, did my grandmother always wear an apron? Yes, she did. I love this man. I have not gotten so much confirmation from somebody. He is really good, Mr. Philip Wyatt. Well, besides you too.
Well, I did that for you
yes.
the other day, Phil. But really, you're outside this circle, and you come in with it in a random way. I was trying.
He was all excited and like, oh my God, no way. And I'm like, yeah, you did it, baby.
It's awesome. It's awesome. You know, this stuff is real. Psychic ability is proved by what J.B. Ryan when? Way long ago. In the laboratories. And it's been done over and over again, but people don't, they still are kind of freaked out by it. They don't accept it fully. Oh boy, I'm way behind on the comments, guys. Sorry. Vixens that had a close call with somebody wanting to become a skinwalker. That was close enough.
Whoa.
And that is like a shapeshifter, Vixen?
That's a whoa.
Clean the graves at midnight too and put food out for them. Totally agree. Idea of leaving food at crossroads goes back through history. That's something I've got. Phil says, Kristen, did your grandma always wear the apron? Okay, there's that comment. Yep.
I'm so sorry, guys. My computer is having
She's
a mental
kinda
breakdown,
stern.
and I'm stuck. So can't. I want to just like say yes, and I'm sorry, and things to the camera.
Jack says, kind of like the Horns SSI tech. I think you mean the SLS. How does that work? That works with infrared light. So Microsoft, in developing their Xbox Connect, which was to be a contender against the Wii. You guys remember Nintendo's Wii, where you had the controls in your hands and it seemed to be able to map you out. Man, I love the Wii. I love the boxing. That was so
I
fun.
like the boxing too.
Wicked fun. Wicked. That was kind of their idea. And what it did is maps, it has a light, puts out infrared light, tries to map out people, and starts to attribute, joints and these kind of stick figure like diagrams that you see in that footage. So it's taken that with maybe a better programming behind it and using that same infrared light spectrum to draw the figures to see if anything is trying to materialize on the infrared level, right? Which is just out of our vision. Our vision is very much
I have the thing about ice. Yeah.
Yeah, a small segment of the electromagnetic band, and infrared goes a little further. And we get into things like full spectrum, so it's a little bit further. If you're looking at it, purely as numbers on a band. And then we get into things like microwaves, which again throw a ton of EMF
That was
off.
wicked funny.
Gamma, X-rays, all that stuff.
That's X
It's
flare.
all within the electromagnetic band.
Absolutely. That's what the X flare.
Steven says the Masonic Lodge in Salina,
Thank you.
Kansas. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was
And
Beer Fest 2022.
Yes, he sent
And,
pictures too.
I have regrets of not attending that
We
because
both
it looked like such a
do.
good time.
Here.
Yes. I know. Oh, I think he sent some of that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, let me share some of this. This is great. All right. One moment, Stephen. I got your messages here. I'm looking on a different tab. Yeah. Check this out, guys. So take a look at that. You see this apparition? Really one of the better photos I've ever seen of this.
That's nice.
That is so freaking cool.
Yeah. Stephen, what were
Okay, here's another one. This one I'm a little bit more confused about. Stephen, you can elaborate.
Yeah.
You see there in the red circle. I see a lot of
shadow behind the pole. Yes.
Way down there.
Yes.
Yeah. That's cool. That is cool. I do. The more I look at that, the more I see it. Legs, the shoulder and arms. But this,
that is just,
that one gets me. And I hope, if you're watching on your phone, it's going to be a little tough to see.
like they're reaching out.
But what? Yeah, they're right there.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And that's more than a photo anomaly. So cool. Oh, we're looking at it. We haven't even put it on the screen yet.
Are you serious?
I am serious. Are you serious? You poor Paul Begley.
Pastor Paul Begley. Are you
Pastor
serious?
Paul. Are you serious?
What?
An apocalyptic pastor that we had on the show was.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yes, he was awesome.
It was great.
We had a lot of fun talking to him. All right, you guys can see that now.
Cheapers crow, Chris.
I know, right? Well, it's because we're on other tabs and yeah. Let's see if I can make
blow it up
bigger in some way.
Blow it up.
You see that? Thoughts on it?
Take us out. Take us out.
Pour myself a little of that water then. Jesus touch. Energy is light. That's why I believe a picture can be taken. Well, we're seeing it right there. Yeah. Joseph might be familiar with the book called Keys of Enoch.
Keys of Enoch?
Keys, I'm not so sure, but I
No.
am familiar with Enoch as far as the Dead Sea Scrolls go. Yes, Stephen got them. Vixen says the Celts kept skulls for the very same reason. So did John Dee of Enochian. Speaking of angels, John Dee, very famous for the Enochian language being developed. And a very interesting thing, right? Here's a little point I wanted to make about the Middle Ages and witchcraft. And we're going to do a bigger show on that at some point in the class treatment. But I want to put this out there, right? When we started the burning times and people were burning witches, hanging them, more than burn them, really. Yes. But they would eventually burn the bodies. This was in the lower classes. It was usually the wise women of a village. They were almost all female, predominantly older. Maybe were considered excess baggage in some way to society. Possibly they were usually outspoken, annoying members of society, accused of witchcraft. And they talked to fairies and then later devils when Christianity rolled in.
Yeah.
The devils and were having intercourse with those devils, apparently. Yet, all the while, and this is the part that doesn't get talked about a lot, we have people like John Dee and other astrologers and psychics working for the kings at the time, working, in harmony with these very Christian-led countries to determine what was going on. And they were doing bizarre acts of high magic and talking to spirits and ghosts, and nobody had a problem with it. In fact, they were paid generously. They were used as spies. Why so different? The aristocrats versus the working class. Very interesting subject in and of itself. Dixon says, a woman who wanted to become a skinwalker, the ritual includes murder and cannibalism.
Oh my God. Come on. Oh, so I suppose you're not friends with her anymore, right?
I don't know what you're referring to.
That's bloody nuts.
What are you talking about?
She said the first one, you said you had a friend that wanted to become that? Yeah, become a skinwalker.
Oh, yeah. Right, become a skinwalker. Well, who doesn't want to be a shapeshifter? I mean, since Twilight came out, a lot of people want to be shapeshifters, right? We Fit made me feel bad about myself. Yeah, me too, Linda. Yeah, I hear you. Steve, so when you come in contact with a skinwalker, you'll know it, and you definitely know it if you go to a place where they are or were. Oh, Josh, I'd like to come back on again. Yeah, we could, Josh, absolutely. Welcome, Jack. Energy is light. That's why I believe a picture can be taken, referring to the apparitions.
That's what she said, right?
Right. Well, I gotta work my way back down here. Sorry, guys. All right, it's reference to the picture. It's two shadows. Jack says, I think the trials are about persecuting any strong woman. Yes, and that is a running theme. They also tended to be older, so you gotta think about that too. Every civilization ever on Earth has a system, and do now in place, even in countries we consider to be a little bit more barbaric or different than us, whether how they exchange their monies and create their products or whatever. They all have a sort of social security care for the elderly system, because eventually a person reaches a point where they cannot work anymore. This goes back from Native American tribes, earlier tribes, to modern day, right? We have it as Social Security here in America, but China has the exact same thing, guys. They take care of their elders too. And those people all become a burden on the system in some way. And I am not here to say they should not be. I think we should take care of them all.
Yes, but that's the way they look at it there. A lot of other, sorry for squirreling, but like a lot of other cultures, they take care of their elderly. Like Asia has, like, different cultures, like in what is that? West? I don't even know. I'm getting tired. But they have the East. They have like cultures where they have the family. What do they call that? Generational, and they take care of them. Everybody lives in the household.
Mhm.
Sorry.
They do. They do. And they certainly did in those
And
days. We
I
were
like
talking
that.
about the Sumerians and Babylonians keeping
Yes.
the dead under the house. They
Yes.
all lived in the same household. But yeah, they do become a sort of burden. And isn't it curious that that was who was targeted in those witch trials?
Right. They killed them all off.
Being outspoken and being maybe a little too old. It had nothing to do with Wicca, Jackson. That's correct. Yeah, Wicca is a modern invention. Wicca is nothing ancient. Dark magic. No dark, no light. I don't know. My shape shifts every year, Philip says. I hear you there.
Sending me pics now.
That's all right, Stephen. About who's here? No worries. We'll show that picture again.
Yes. Just
So,
blow it up.
It'll come back. Vixen says, exactly, Jack. Kilowatt many were women who inherited land and refused the advance of marriage from male neighbors in the church.
Right.
And this goes also aligns exactly with how Native American culture was treated up here in New England, where we had King Philip's War, the supposed reasons for the Bridgewater Triangle that we were part of. They were always political motivations behind all of these things and why chiefs were assassinated or supposedly poisoned. We have a great podcast that details all that stuff, but it was the ever expanding need of basically white people, colonists coming over, Puritans, to have more and more land. And they would negotiate with the chiefs. They would go back and forth and say, well, we want to go here. And this eventually becomes going west for gold. And as we've now moved them into reservations and that sort of thing, and then broken countless treaties, the history
This is terrible.
is horrifying what we did here. And this is how the westward expansion, how it works. And this happens in other countries and not exclusive to that. This is the way of man, and it's not right. It's not right. But if you listen to podcasts and you go on your whatever outlet you use, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, look up Dark Horse Paranormal. I think it's episode 4, Native American Hauntings, we call it.
Yes.
Give that a listen. You'll get a lot of history. We worked really hard on that. That was
Yes, we
several
did.
years ago.
It was a lot. It was a lot of
Yeah.
history. And
Yeah. Cannibalism.
it goes by fast, but you
for the
gotta
colonies.
listen to every
'Cause they had
every
nothing
word.
to eat. They arrived to empty camps, right?
Yep.
Why?
I mean,
Disease,
well, yeah, we
Right.
gave them diseases before we came over here.
smallpox.
Smallpox on purpose. Well,
They had an easy
Yeah.
landing. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't until they moved further in that there were problems. There was never that Thanksgiving you see on Peanuts.
yeah,
It's sneaky.
anywhere.
So yeah, that's some pretty interesting stuff. That's all. So maybe a couple of clips. Want to revisit a couple of clips with you guys? Steven's saying, hoping Ernie Pack would come in and confirm who's in that photo. Well, he's welcome to. Yeah, if not today, another time. We'd love to have Ernie on the show.
Yes.
And you as well, Steven.
Yes, Stephen.
We've been trying to set up a date for years. We never get it right, but we will. Let's see. One of our best DVPs was one where Kristen was in her house, her dwelling, and I was in mine. And we're getting ready to do a spirit box session. And we mentioned talking into boxes. All right,
Yes.
right. And we do this like you can talk into this box, trying to dumb it down, I guess, with spirit, right?
It's
Like meaning a recorder.
Layman's terms. Don't say dumb it down.
I don't know if they can see colors. We don't know, but we're trying to cover all the bases.
This box, that box, black box. You know.
Mhm. And you'll hear all this kind of noise, this kind of overdriven noise. The recorder was not overdriven by the sounds in the environment, in our physical environment. We're well aware how to do that, handle that, and program that thing to not be doing that. Been using that for like 10 years now.
It's touched by spirit. When spirit touches it, now we know
it starts to overdrive, and it happens a lot since it's happened the first time, which is kind of interesting. Where the other recorders don't do that so much. That one will do it. She's on the phone. I got her on speaker, and you're going to hear a voice say, "I'm not going to say it." Sorry. Or this box or that box.
Says, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. And that's like one of our best EVPs, yet we don't know where the hell it came from because we're on the phones. So weird. Do it again.
One more time with that one. Sorry, so loud, guys. I'm gonna say it. Or this box or that box.
Boy, I don't know what she wanted to say, but boy, howdy.
Yeah, it wasn't us. There was nobody home in either of our locations. And there goes the box. The ball. Cat ball. Sorry. Yeah. That's fun.
Now, there's a cat ball next to it down on the bottom, and there's one on the side of it. So if that was one of us rolling in the chairs, this is why I do this with the vibration. All of them would have went off.
Anyways. Rolling in the chair. Oh, well, I can do it. I drop it.
What the hell?
I dropped it. All right, that will set it off. But I didn't do that.
No,
and the thing went off. That was cray. That was cray, Joshua says.
Yeah, that's why.
Okay, apparently I can't drop the chairs.
No, you can't.
6 inches off the floor without setting them off. A little bit of sensitivity there. But there it goes again. All right. Our cat ball's good data. What do you guys think?
That's a good
Spirit ball. No, not a cat ball. My cats are fixed. Where do you think their balls went?
Oh, cheapers.
I had to put them somewhere. Stick an LED in that bitch and put it up on the shelf.
Oh, my
goodness. We'll do a couple of clips. And I think we'll wrap things up. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. This one's fun. This was from when we kind of got off the Evil AM band, the real attachment that I know a lot of you heard us talk about, where we did have a problem after investigation, and probably it was our fault. We fully admit that, but we couldn't shake the damn thing no matter what things we did other than not think about it.
Yeah, so going off over there.
We changed. Is it?
It just did behind us.
Oh, the other shelf. That's cool.
Well, we called spirit, so.
Spirit balls.
Spirit balls. All right, sorry, go ahead. Investigation.
We had to shift our focus off what we were working on at the time and obsessed with, which drew it closer to us. And we kind of got into the Native American thing, which resulted in that podcast that I was just talking about. We were going to different Native American sites and landmarks and places that were known to be haunted and getting some really great data. One of them was this. It's kind of funny. It's a funny way to leave the show, we think. This is by Anawan Rock in Rehoboth, Massachusetts, which is pretty damn haunted in and of itself. There's several haunted locations in Rehoboth, Mass, which is right in the Bridgewater Triangle. And you guys that are fans of that are probably already aware of the rock and Rehoboth. And it is haunted.
I played there while I was a child by myself.
She did. She did. Wasn't known then to be haunted. But yeah, there's a whole story there too. But this one's funny. This is, it's seemingly a ghost talking to us. Let me play it real fast, then we'll break it. Who lives here? Who lives here? Okay, so what is that?
Says the neighbors think that I'm a ghost. And then Chris goes, who lives here? And the woman goes, ghosts.
Yeah, we got that on the Shack Hack, our old,
I got it
old school IGC device back when you still had to clip the damn capacitor.
In my day.
Because I didn't sell these readily. And that is what we got. And it is scanning to the channels, and you hear it's the same voice. The neighbors think I'm a ghost. And it's now scanned. How much of that band? Now it's not screwing like what some of our modern spirit boxes do, but it is moving along. This thing does move.
So to get all that in like one tone, one voice tone, is amazing.
And to be that
That's when
clear,
you know. Yeah,
and it's like they're goofing with us or
yeah,
something.
they are. It was really funny. It's one of our funniest clips.
I like it. Who lives here? Ghost. Who lives here? Slow it down. Who lives here? Pretty cool.
Everything but the ghost part in the front. The
Yeah.
neighbors think that I'm a ghost.
Very cool
I
recording.
just really thought that was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
We get a lot.
We like when they they have sense of humor. So.
Oh no, yeah, it seemed humorous to us, and this is where Kristen played as a child.
I did all by myself. I was an only child, and my parents had an antique shop, and it was like towards the front of it.
Now I have to reconcile Kristen being a ghost or an actual human being. Jack says, "You guys are killing me."
Sorry. Yeah,
it was almost the morph.
Yep.
Oh.
I used to play there all by myself, and yeah, I felt spirits, but at that time I was like, no, leave me alone. I had enough activity in my own house, so with the two shadow beings, so I was like freaking out, and I didn't want anything to do with them, and I'm kicking myself, not licking myself in the ass. That was funny comment we had with that, but I'm kicking myself in the ass for like not knowing.
I've got pictures.
I wish somebody would have told me that it was stop. So serious, that it was okay to have that. It was okay to have spirits around you, not the two shadow figures. No, tell me what those are. Somebody should have explained that to me. I wish they would have when they knew. So, yeah, I wish I knew back then, because I started and now in a later age, and I'm kicking myself in the ass for it, because they're all asking for help, and I want to know how I can help them, and I'm delving into all this history and research that I should have done, when I was a kid.
Yeah, but we didn't know. In our evolutions,
No, just
they kind of worked together. Everything got better when we started doing it
that
together.
was synchronicity as
You
well.
know, I had done been on teams and done that stuff years back, and been on a lot of some investigations and stuff like that. I mean, we had a little more recent, history before we started doing that stuff. And I had some luck with it. Definitely had some luck with it. And I definitely was involved in things like magic and witchcraft and all that kind of stuff. But and had seen some things that were hard to explain. But there was something about the two of us being together.
We passed each
that
other
made
when
it
we were children.
A lot better. And yeah, we've
And had no idea.
Crossed our paths through our lives.
Times.
So there's a reason for it, I guess. At least in this timeline, right?
Yeah.
We were like superheroes in that other timeline I dreamt about.
Yeah, actually, I had Bigfoot and the bunny. I'm gonna post that AI picture.
Facts, man.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about Native American spirits out here in New Mexico, you almost have to speak Apache and not allowed to understand them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm tired.
I would love to learn their languages.
To them.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the shamanistic aspect and shamanism in itself. And they didn't call themselves shamans; they called themselves medicine men and things like that. But you see this phenomena around the world and so many similarities in it cross-culturally that if you don't throw a little credence that way, I mean, you're not even paying attention. Exactly. It says. Yeah, saying we saw someone connected us to the devil in their eyes. Yeah, well, that is religion being pushy, right? That's why you got to be wary of organized religion.
And we really try not to do that.
Any
say things like that, but
group mind. Yeah, you got to be careful.
A lot of our listeners and viewers are have their different
this isn't
religions.
This is cultural.
Yes.
Anyways, guys, this has been a lot of fun. We love you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Making a show out of nothing.
Yeah.
It's like Seinfeld. Oh yeah, no. Talk
about
whatever.
Come on and hang out with you guys.
Turns out to be pretty fun. It's always fun to hang out with you. We really appreciate it. We'll be back next Thursday. I think we have the metaphysical crew. I don't have the calendar up.
Wednesday? I'm not sure.
On Thursday, I think Becca and Carly and Greg are joining us. for Metaphysical Crossings.
My ears ringing.
Pretty sure. I have to check it real quick. We're going to talk about that in ITC and their experiences and what got them into what they're into. So that should be super interesting.
We have a wicked lot of fun when we're with them. So you guys are going to laugh your butts off.
We do. We have a blast.
And don't lick yourself in the ass. You kick it. Oh, I love that. It was so fun.
You guys rock. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much again. We appreciate it.
Stay safe this weekend, and we'll see you Thursday.
Bye.
Good night, all.